started. We are an AECO industry consulting firm established in 1994. We do have 12 locations in the United States, and we have one in the United Kingdom, so actually 11 in the United States. Over 140 AECO consulting specialists and software developers. So we are currently growing at this time at a rapid rate. Some of our consulting services include building information modeling, strategy and workflow assessments, technology management mentoring and support, and application development. So if any of these services interest you, if we can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out to us at any time because we certainly have the staff that can service you. A little bit about me. My name is Kevin Wentworth. I am an AutoCAD Civil 3D certified professional with 8 years of AECO experience. At Microdesk, I provide engineering and surveying firms with template building, on-site and online training, one-on-one project mentoring, and a lot more. I am an InfraWorks enthusiast, so I'm dedicated to helping firms enhance and accelerate the conceptual to final design process. I've learned that InfraWorks is a pretty intricate software, and I am learning something new about it every time I go into it. I am certainly not the expert at it, but I certainly will hopefully pique your interest about some certain tools that I find useful. The one most important thing about it is its interoperability between Civil 3D and InfraWorks, allowing you to take your conceptual design and meld that into your final design by going from InfraWorks into Civil 3D and then Civil 3D back into InfraWorks. Our agenda today, we'll take a look at the InfraWorks model builder and the suitability map functionality. So when you first open up InfraWorks, you'll notice that you'll be able to go into the model builder, and that will bring you to a Google Earth looking screen, and you will be able to basically take a 200 square kilometer or less model and turn that into a three-dimensional model. We'll go through that as we move forward. Our next step will be to analyze some sites using surface analysis. We'll do some grading functionality within InfraWorks, and we'll also throw in some preliminary drainage design. What we'll be able to do is we'll be able to take those conceptual grading designs and preliminary drainage designs. We'll be able to import them into Civil 3D, and that's when you can do your more finalized design. Once you do your finalized design in InfraWorks, you'll be able to take that into Civil 3D and then back into InfraWorks and so on. Once you're back into InfraWorks with your finalized design, you'll be able to create some more visualization and snapshots within InfraWorks. So if you're at a bid meeting, instead of bringing in these 40-page plan sets with all two-dimensional and sections and profiles, you can go in there with a three-dimensional model that you can make changes to as you progress through your bid meeting. I'll go back to this screen at the end so you can go ahead and give us a shout if you need anything further, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into InfraWorks as we get started. When you first open InfraWorks, this is what you'll see. So this is the home screen. One thing I want you guys to notice is over in the right-hand section, you'll see the land areas and grading behaviors is in a preview mode. So this service and the land areas are tools that we will be using moving forward. These are in the experimental nature of InfraWorks. So what is going on is it's in the experimental stage. It's going to be implemented into future releases, but they are in preview mode at this time. If you were to download InfraWorks 2018, InfraWorks A360, you will have the availability to use these tools, but just know at this time they are not supported officially, but they certainly function well and give you the results that you're looking for as far as grading is concerned. So you'll see when you first open up your screen that you have all of your available models in InfraWorks. When you open up a model, it gets saved to the cloud and it gets saved to your desktop. So in turn, what you'll be able to do when you save these models to the cloud is you'll be able to manage users who have access to your model. Even if somebody doesn't have the InfraWorks model, it saves to the cloud and it also saves in an HTML format, so they won't be able to make any edits like you would in your InfraWorks model. But if you wanted to share with a client one of your preliminary designs, your conceptual designs, you would be able to send that to them in a web browser format, and they would be able to go and view your model as you would see it in InfraWorks. The first thing you want to do to start out a design is head into your model builder, and that is this first button here in the middle. So you'll head into your model builder. What that will open up is a map format, so you'll search by location. I'm going to go ahead and search for Bedford, New Hampshire. You'll see to zoom us in right now, it shows your area selected, and it shows the maximum area. I have a question real quick. I'll try to answer this at the end of the session, but good question. So when we start out, we have this map that we can go ahead and zoom in and try to find the particular site that we are looking to work in. I'm going to go ahead near the Bedford Mall, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a restaurant in one of these areas, these open sites. So what you'll notice is when you zoom in, you can either create a model out of this window screen that we're looking at, or we can select an area of interest. So you can either draw a rectangle, you can draw a polygon, or you can import a polygon to select your area of interest. So if I was to draw a polygon over certain portions of a model, I could certainly do that. If I was to export this model out at this current site, you'll notice that I only have 2.21 square kilometers, so I could maximize this all the way up to 200 square kilometers. Once I exceed those limits, you'll see that the maximum turns to yellow, and it's telling you that you can't export that model out at that current size. What you'll do is you'll enter a model name. So I would do Bedford, New Hampshire, and then create a model. What that's going to do is it's going to start creating your model in the cloud. Once that's done, you're going to receive an email notification, and it'll also pop up here in your My Models. So I currently have a model available here from InfraWorks, and by doing just that, this is what I receive out of that model here. You'll notice that I have buildings, I have roads, I have water areas that are generated, and this is all generated from that create model after selecting an area of interest. And what you'll notice is these roads you can turn into design roads, so you can edit the elevations of your roads, you can edit the elevations of your buildings, you can add roofs, and we'll get into that a little more as we move forward. But it generates a three-dimensional model, kind of like a Google Earth model in 3 dimensions. So the first thing we'll do moving forward is we'll show you how to analyze a site using some surface analysis. Let's say we're starting out, we want to design a restaurant in this portion of our mall. What we can do is we can head into our InfraWorks tools, we can head into our Analyze Your Model section, and then you can head into Terrain Themes. This will open up a little palette, and if you hit the plus sign here, you'll notice all of the different types of themes that you can add. I'm going to call this an elevation analysis. You'll notice there's 3 different types of analysis that you can do: an elevation, an aspect, or a slope. An elevation theme changes the display based on height. A slope theme changes the display based on ground slope or steepness, and an aspect theme varies the display based on the direction of the ground slope. So if I was to do an elevation analysis here, you'll see the minimum and maximum value. This is all read from the overlay and the surface of the actual InfraWorks model. It is in 3 dimension. You can change the number of rules. So let's say I wanted to do 10. You'll notice at the bottom it's previewing the different colors that are going to be displayed by these number of rules. You can change the transparency of these. So you'll see in the bottom, you'll notice that its transparency is changing as I toggle this. Let's say I accept this and press OK. You'll notice it analyzes your full surface model here based off of these parameters that you've set in your rules. So just to show you, I'll do a slope analysis. You'll see the minimum and maximum value. So this is a 0 to 90-degree slope. I'll add a couple more rules here. I'll change the transparency and click OK. So now we can analyze our site based off of 0 to 9. Let's say we need to go 0 to 4 for the degree slope. We could always come in here and we can edit it and change the number of rules that we have available. And you'll notice that this will update as I'm changing dynamically. Click OK. Now you'll see we can design our site based off of the minimized slope areas. You could certainly do the same thing for an aspect analysis, and this will just give you a different look based off of the direction of the ground slope. Now you can easily toggle these on or off, so you can leave these themes up in this palette, and you can always go back to them and edit them as necessary. So moving forward with that, I'm going to go ahead and try to close this palette if I can. Go. And we're going to go ahead and look at how we can import some more data sources into our model. So if I go into this button over here, this Create and Manage Your Model, and I look in my data sources, these are all the data sources that have been imported into my model just by going with the Create Model function through the model builder. So it's brought in your buildings, your coverage areas, your imagery, your roads, and so on. If you need to select these objects from here, you could always come into your data sources and select all of these features. So this will select all of your road features. You could do the same thing for your buildings through here. If you ever needed to add more data, let's say you have some soil information, some wetland information, some property lines, we'll show you how to import some shape formats later on in the model. But if you had an overall soil analysis on this site, you can import that by coming in here and going through this shapefile format. You'll also notice the different types of models that you can bring in. You can bring in a Revit model, you can bring in an AutoCAD Civil 3D model to overlay over the top of it as 2D. You can bring in point cloud information, land XMLs, shapefiles, and Sketchup models. So a lot of things that we can supplement our design with as far as bringing in external information into our model. So let's go ahead and look at some of the grading features that we have available here within InfraWorks. If I head into my Create Conceptual Design features, what you'll notice we have right now is land areas. Now these are like drawing coverages. I don't know if anybody's familiar with working with InfraWorks yet, but this land areas was added because we can now have land areas that have grading attached to these objects. So if I click on land areas, you'll see the different draw styles that I have available in my palette. So I'm going to try to find something here. I'm going to search for maybe some gray asphalt, and I'll go to a material of a parking area with a gray asphalt. I'll grab that, and what you'll notice is I'm going to sacrifice the actual design of this particular site to make sure I show you all the available tools that we have. So hopefully you're not too judgmental on my design here, but let's say we just throw a parking area out somewhere like this, and we double click to grab it. And what you'll notice is we have a land area that was drawn over the top, pretty much draped over the existing surface. Now let's say we want to add some grading to this particular object. If I click on this object, you'll notice now that we have this manual grading function in our land area palette. So if I click on manual grading, what you'll see is we can add a style that we want to grade at. Out of the box, we have some particular styles that come with it. So you have a rock wall, a stone cut, you have a grass cut with 3-to-1 slope. I'll show you in a second how to create new styles, but let's say we just take this 3-to-1 grass cut slope and press OK. Now you'll notice that we're going to be grading to existing grade at a 3-to-1 slope from these objects. So if I was to make any modifications to this particular object, you'll notice that our grading is going to update for us for our preliminary design. Now it's very easy to add additional vertexes to these. So if I wanted to add a vertex here, I can maybe modify and bring this over here, make changes to my land area, and you'll notice that it's always dynamically reacting to my existing surface that I have in the model. If I want to drop or raise this, you'll notice that the grading is going to update. Now in turn, what you'll notice when we bring this into Civil 3D is that it's going to turn it into a Civil 3D surface that we can modify within Civil 3D. So conceptually, this is a good start for your grading, for your parking area. What you might notice is these little grids that show up in your land area objects. If you change to conceptual view, up here you have engineering view and conceptual view. You'll notice that these go away. It's a little bit more of a visual purpose view of that, so don't get concerned with the engineering aspect of these objects. So let's say we're going to finish out our design here. Let's say we wanted to add an object to this. Maybe we're going to bring in our restaurant. What you can do is you can bring in Sketchup models from your 3D warehouse that you have available online. So if I go to 3dwarehouse.sketchup.com, there's all kinds of different things that you can grab out of here. So you got things from anywhere from statues to buildings. I've seen football stadiums brought in, sofas, stairs, all things of that nature, automobiles. So if you search the 3D warehouse, you can pretty much come up with a lot of free available stuff that you can bring into your InfraWorks model to make your visual design look more accurate. Now, I will say that there are certain things that need to be done to some of these SketchUp models, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I bring in this Pizza Hut that we're going to bring in. Sometimes you have to export it as a DAE file format and then bring in the materials with it, or else it's not going to come in and look as good as you want it to. There are some sites that you can go and maybe you spend a couple $100 and you have more availability of the things you can bring in. But you can bring in a lot of cool free stuff through this 3D warehouse. So what we're going to do is we're going to head back to our data sources. And we're going to bring in a Shapefile here, a Sketchup model, excuse me. I'll go find it on my desktop. We're going to bring in this Pizza Hut Sketchup model. I'll click Open. What you'll notice is it's going to bring in the source type as a 3D model. Right now, it is actually in progress of being imported. We'll have to do a couple things in order to bring this in once it's fully imported. Another thing while this is importing that I want you to be aware of is the ability to create different proposals. So what I would have done to start this model is probably create a new proposal. Right now, when you first create this model, you have a master view. So if you click up here in your models and you add a new proposal, say I call this site design, and click OK, that creates a new proposal for us. So anything that we do from now on is going to, it looks like it actually modeled my previous design when I was playing around with this earlier, so sorry about that. But you would create a new proposal, call it maybe site design, and then anything you do on that proposal from there on out will be included on that proposal. So if you have maybe 4 different design scenarios that you want to do with this restaurant, maybe you can create a proposal for each, and you can have different design functions for each one of those proposals, so you could go back and forth between each one of those scenarios, which would be very helpful in a bid walk scenario or a bid meeting scenario where you could click through different types of scenarios of your design. So now that we have our Pizza Hut Sketchup model, we need to configure it. So if I double click on it here, it'll bring my data source configuration palette up. The one thing I'll have to do is I'll have to make sure I turn it into a building. And you'll see a couple of different errors here. It's because it wants me to geolocate it. What I can do with these SketchUp models is I can just go to interactive placing. So after I've told it it's a building in the type, I can do interactive placing. So I do that. You'll notice all of these materials that are on the SketchUp model, when I bring it in and I close and refresh, it's actually brought that model into InfraWorks. The one thing that's missing is the material, so this is a certain case where I'd need to export that SketchUp model as a DAE model and bring the materials along with it. So let us know if you need help bringing some of these models and actually attaching the materials to it. But this is one of those things that happens with those free models on SketchUp. Sometimes you have to do some finagling with it to get it to come in properly. But this is kind of looks like a Pizza Hut, so you'll see that you can grab these actual models itself, rotate them around. It's going to drape it on top of our land area surface at this time, so you can bring the whole thing, you can raise or lower the whole thing, and you can see that we have a preliminary model for our building. Now to just touch this up, let's say I wanted to add some coverage areas. I can head into my create conceptual design features. We'll add some coverages. Let's say I want to throw in some concrete building pad for our building. Now what you'll notice, these coverages, when you bring them into Civil 3D, they will turn into 3D polylines. So you'll notice later on in the game that you will be able to turn those 3D polylines into feature lines, and that's where you can start refining your design within Civil 3D after you export it out. So I'm going to basically take one of these coverages. I'm going to use a recreational zoning coverage, and then I'm going to add a material to it. So I'll create a coverage around this building. Notice it's added that coverage here. I can click on this coverage. I'm going to get rid of this palette here. And then instead of a manual style of zoning recreational, I'll actually just add a material to this. So I'll tell this, instead of this coverage or zoning, I'll tell it it's a parking area, maybe it's a gray concrete pad. So now I've just changed the style of that. Now I have this concrete pad for us on our site. Let's say we do another coverage. We'll do a recreational again. Maybe I want to come up from this parking lot here. And I want to create a parking scenario. Again, sacrificing the actual design of this just to show you the tools. But what you'll notice with these coverage areas is that they're going to be draped on top of your grading features. So if I turn this, gave this a material, let's say I used black asphalt this time. You'll see how we can start to conceptually model this parking lot area with the grading. Now what you'll notice is if you make a change to your grading object, the grading will update, and also these pavement coverages that we've draped over the top are going to maintain and dynamically react. They're going to maintain that relationship with the grading object. So let's say we want to change the slope of this grading. What we can do is we can create a style. Let's say instead of 3:1, we wanted to go with 2:1. What we can do is we can head to our style palette within this model button. And I'm going to go ahead, these are all the styles that we have available. So you have pipeline styles, railway styles, land feature styles, and then we have our grading styles. So if I wanted to create a 2:1 slope as far as a grading style, I could just create a new one here. So if I add, that's actually going to add a catalog. If I add a style, you'll see the different types of grading I can add. I can add in either a fixed width or a fixed slope. Let's say I do a fixed slope. My cut slope is 2:1. Let's say I make my fill slope 2:1 as well. And then I can add a grading material to that. Maybe I want to use this manicured grass. How about field grass we'll use for this material? You can also set a limit for your grading. I click OK. That's going to create this style for me. And all I have to do is drag that style on top of this object. And now this grading is updated using a 2:1 slope instead of a 3:1. So I could in turn create any type of slope that I want, any type of fixed width that I wanted for these styles, and all I have to do is drag and drop them on top of this object, and that's going to update the styles of the grading. You notice this particular one is using a rock wall as the style. So if I go and edit that particular style, you'll see it's using a cut slope of 0.1:1 and a fill slope of 3:1. And then the cut material and fill material uses different styles to display like this. So that's your styles here. That's how the grading objects work. Let's say I wanted to add a drainage design to this particular model. So what we have in our out-of-the-box tools is some pipelines, but for additional, you can get the design, review, and engineer drainage, and this will just be added as an additional palette on your InfraWorks model. So if you click on that, and you click on your edit your model, your design drainage, you have a create drainage network. You also have some coverage areas that you can add. You can create watersheds in here. This is where you can also create land areas and rivers and water areas. So if I create my watershed, if I create my drainage network, you'll notice a little palette that comes up, and you have all different types of inlets that you can change to. Right now I'm using a 60-inch 24x16 frame. These are all built in Chameleon or Assembly Modeler. So any type of certain scenario that you may have, if you have a specific type of inlet or manhole that you want to use and you want to build it, we can certainly build those for you and incorporate into your InfraWorks template. You can change your default sump depth. You can resize your pipes based on rainfall through here, based off of watershed analysis. So all different types of things that you can do here within your drainage tools. Let's just say I create a simple drainage model here. I'm just going to model from here to here. just to show you what comes in. And it looks like this decided that it did not want to model how I wanted it to, which is usually how things work. Let's see if we get this another try. And it looks like it did model. Okay, so it looked like it was just trying to model, and I was getting very impatient. So when I bring in the drainage network, you'll notice the inlets here, how they look. They get draped right on top of our surface. And if you look underneath the model, you'll notice that the pipes and the structures are being modeled. These can all be updated within your conceptual design. So you can click on these, you can change the sump depth, you can change the rim elevation, you can change the type of structure it is. When you click on these pipes, you can change the types of material you have on these, the inverts, the end inverts. So you can model these in your conceptual design stage through InfraWorks and then export these out into Civil 3D for refined design. Let's say I just add another drainage network on here, click on my structure. Maybe I don't want this particular structure. Maybe I want to model a little pond in between these two buildings. I can head to my land areas, search for water. Again, I'd have to add a manual grading to this. So if I look for more styles, I use this grass cut slope here. Let's say I can move this down, not that far, but maybe up above the drain pipe. You'll notice that all of the grading is updating for this particular pond basin. So now we're starting to model drainage networks, land areas, grading, detention basins, all within InfraWorks that we can now export into Civil 3D and further refine our design. So at this stage, what I'll do is I'll export this out as an IMX. If I head into my settings, I have this export IMX. What you want to do is you can either use the entire model or you can define a polygon around certain features of your InfraWorks model. So I'll just do that as an example. And you want to make sure you target a coordinate system. So I'm just going to do New Hampshire 83F here. You could have the coordinate system of the InfraWorks model. You just have to make sure that it matches up in your Civil 3D model. So I'll export that out, and then I'll head into AutoCAD Civil 3D now. I'm going to create a new drawing. I'm going to make sure that my coordinate system matches. And then we have in Civil 3D this Autodesk InfraWorks tab. I'll just do a import IMX, grab that IMX file that I just exported. You'll notice that it's importing 3 surfaces, some alignments. So all of these roads that were in InfraWorks have come into Civil 3D as alignments. All of the surfaces came in. You might not notice the difference, but we have 3 existing surfaces. You'll see that it's modeled that pond here. So now what we can do is we can basically turn this surface into a final surface and then re-import that back in as an XML. As I said, all of these coverage areas have come in as 3D polylines. So you notice these are a 3D polyline, so you can turn these into feature lines, and you can start modeling this in a more refined, do some fine tuning on it, so you can do your curbs. And I'll show you that as we move forward, how you bring that back into InfraWorks. But this is where you would do your further refined design. You can take these pipes and these structures, bring them into storm and sanitary analysis to do all of your hydraulic calculations and things of that nature. So what I can do, let's say we wanted to bring this finalized surface back into InfraWorks. I'm just going to go quickly turn these on a no display style, because what we're going to do is we're going to create a surface, call it final. I'll paste my existing ground. I'll paste my existing transportation, and then I'll paste my proposed ground on top. And now we have one surface in our 3D model. You'll see a little area here where I might need to clean up as far as some triangulation is concerned, but we have now one finalized surface. And if we need to add some swale lines, or some curbing, or maybe you want to refine this detention pond within Civil 3D, you can certainly do that. Once we do that, we can head into our output. We could do export to land XML, or you can head into the final surface and from here do export land XML. When you do that, I'll call it final surface here, replace that. Now when you head back into InfraWorks, what you can do is you can take that final surface as an XML and basically just drag it into InfraWorks. It's going to recognize that it is a terrain type. I'll close and refresh it. Now you may notice that the grading will look a little weird, but what we can do is we can turn off the manual grading on these. We'll say there's no style there. And now you'll notice that the InfraWorks model is actually modeling to that final surface that we just had. So if I was to take off the manual grading here, now our InfraWorks surface is actually showing the final surface that we just refined in Civil 3D. So pretty cool tools there as far as that is concerned. I'm probably going to go a little bit over here than I wanted to, but I do want to show you how you would take a further refined design in Civil 3D and bring it in to do some visualization. So real quickly, let's say we have this Macy's, and in Civil 3D, we have went into vehicle tracking, we've made our parking spaces, we've updated our islands with feature lines, we have all of our pavement in here. What we can do is we can export all of these objects out as a shapefile. So you'll want to basically dummy down your Civil 3D drawing by exporting it as an AutoCAD format, and then export these all out as individual shapefile formats. That way we can bring them back into InfraWorks. So let's say we've modeled this further, we have this design ready to go in Civil 3D, and we want to bring that back into InfraWorks for visualization purposes. Within InfraWorks, I'm going to find the shape files that I have exported out from Civil 3D. I'll start with my pavement. I'll go ahead and I'll drag this into InfraWorks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's a coverage area, and then I'm going to apply a style to it. So this particular style, I'll go with a gray asphalt. Click OK, close and refresh. So and there is our asphalt that we've modeled. Now on top of that, I'm going to go ahead and do the islands. Let's see if I can get this a little smaller here. I'll call it a coverage. This time I'm going to use a land cover. I'll use manicured grass. Close and refresh it. So that's going to model our islands on top of the pavement there. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll bring in my striping that I've done from either vehicle tracking or just from objects in Civil 3D. So I'll grab my striping. One thing when we have these type of objects here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a white color. But one thing to keep in mind is this convert closed polylines to polygons. So what it would do, it would take those closed polylines and convert them into polygons, and you wouldn't get the result you're looking for as far as these paint stripes are concerned. So if you uncheck that, what it'll happen is it'll maintain and I don't see him, so it must be the style manager here. If I go into my no, that's not what I want. I want style palette. No, I don't want that either. I want not sure where this didn't go in. Surface layers. That's what I want. And it looks like this is on top. I'm not sure why I decided not to go. Let's give this another go. Oh, I know exactly what I did. I needed to add a width to it. So, excuse me for that. I'm basically going to do the same thing I just did, but not be a bonehead this time. So I've added that on top, but what I need to do is add some width to those features as they are polylines instead of polygons. So if I come over here and I select these features and I find my buffer, I can do like 0.1667, add a couple inches to those objects. And there is our striping. So I want to move through this a little quickly just to finish up, but now what we can do is we can start to add some visualization to this model. So let's say I want to move my building here a little bit. I want to add a roof to it. Let's say I get my style palette up. Maybe I don't like the way the facade looks. What I can do is I can come in, maybe I want this type of style. I can just drag it on, give it a different type of look. If I select this object, maybe I want to change the roof material. I have all these different types of roof materials that I can add just to give it a different look. Maybe I want to add some trees, some people. I don't like those trees. I want some different trees here. Say I add some trees here. I can resize these as big, rotate them as I please. Maybe I want to do a row of trees, and I'll go with this particular tree. Oop, these are extremely large. So let's take care of that. I can edit the density. I can also edit the height. So these were obviously not the right trees to use for this particular scenario, but let's go ahead and get rid of these and add some hedges instead. So you kind of get the idea here. I want to add some people walking through the building. If I can find some good cars, maybe I want to add different types of cars here to kind of beef up your visualization model. Rotate these around. You can rotate all of these people around. So you kind of get the idea as far as the visualization is concerned. Now what you can do is you can head into your infrastructure design presentations, and you can do things like change the cloud cover. Maybe you want a cloudy day. Maybe you want to change how fast these clouds are moving to create some animations. Maybe you want to have the clouds move in the other direction. You can change the wind direction. You can change the date and time. You'll notice that the shadows will move with the date and time. Now what you can do is you can either create a storyboard with different types of scenarios or how the design project is moving along, or what types of scenarios. Maybe we want different types of trees in another scenario. Maybe we want the entrance to be over here instead of over here in our other scenario, so we can create a new type of scenario. Now you could create snapshots. You can even add watermarks. So I'll go ahead and add a quick watermark. You can change the transparency level, which side it's on. I'll go top right with this. Now I could create a snapshot. And you could send somebody something like this, just to kind of give them a visual aspect of what you're trying to come up with in your design. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand how the Civil 3D to InfraWorks workflow is gearing towards. And I think if you were to come into design meetings with fully visualized models, I think it would kind of blow away the competition as far as that's concerned. Instead of coming in with plan sets, you start coming in with models. You can make edits to the trees, you can change styles, you can go through different scenarios, and it will make this conceptual design process a much more seamless transition. So I'm going to open it up to questions now, and I believe there have been some questions. Which version of InfraWorks gives access to the model builder? That is all of the InfraWorks versions. So if you have InfraWorks 360, if you have InfraWorks 2018, 2017. You'll have the right out of the box InfraWorks without the design utilities or anything like that, the drainage utilities or anything like that. You'll have access to the model builder. Let me just get this back up here. Again, if you have any other questions, let me know. You can email me directly at kwentworth@microdesk.com. Again, that's kwentworth@microdesk.com, or you can email team@microdesk.com. You can give us a call anytime, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So if there's no other questions, you're free to go ahead and go. If you have any other questions, I'll be here until around 2 o'clock, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. But thank you, I appreciate it, and hopefully you learned something today. I did forget, in case you're still here, to refer you to the poll, so let's just launch this. If you can please vote, I would really appreciate it. It's just a yes or no question, so. How did I access the grading tools? So if I head into InfraWorks, and one thing I do want to mention to you as well, if you are doing road design, you'll notice that when you do the model builder, and these all turn into roads, so you can change the way these styles look. But if you turn these into, oh, I gotta close the poll, sorry guys. Then you'll be able to see what I have. So let me go ahead and 42% voted, so I guess that's enough. Let me go ahead and close this poll so I can show you what I'm talking about here. So if I turn one of these conceptual roads into a design road, and this will be what you're doing when you're designing actual roads within Civil 3D, you'll notice with these design roads that you have the ability to add grading to them. So if, let's say I added a fixed slope to this particular design, you'll notice that you can do all of your road grading with these design tools. So you can change your cut slope, your fill slope to all of your design roads within InfraWorks, and then you can export that out into Civil 3D, and these will come in as proposed surfaces within Civil 3D. But as far as the land area grading tools, I either went into my drainage palette, or if I go into InfraWorks and I go into land areas, this is where I'll have access to these land areas. So what I have to do is I have to basically draw a coverage. So I'll draw this, this parking lot here with some gray asphalt. So I'll just draw an area over here. So this is just like drawing a coverage. Once you have that land area within InfraWorks, if you click on it, you'll see in your palette you have manual grading. Right now the default is set to none. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to add a material that it grades off of, or a style. So if you go into more styles here, these are all the grading styles you have available to you. I'll just use the concrete in this case, click OK. Now once you've done that with your land area, this is actually using, looks like 3.281 feet. So let me just, I'm not sure what this particular style does, but if I go into my style palette and I go to grading, and I look at my concrete style, it's using a fixed width of 3 feet. So this is actually, this concrete one is grading 3 feet. Wherever it hits the existing surface, it's tying that back into. But let's say I wanted to use a grass cut at 3:1. Instead of that, I could just basically update the style of our grading, and now it's using that 3:1 slope with the grass cut material back to existing grade. So that's how you access those land area grading tools. Is there any other questions? Hopefully that was able to answer your question there. Where this went. Awesome. Thanks, Dante. Again, guys, kwentworth@microdesk.com. I'm going to type this into the chat. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. If you feel more comfortable sending out an email message to the team, you can go ahead and email to team@microdesk.com or use that phone number for any questions you might have about InfraWorks or how we can help you in your design process moving forward.